Hey Tribe, Black Girl Tech here. I want to talk about books today. What books should you be reading if you're trying to become a developer or if you're early on in your career? While some of these books may apply across the board in kind of subject matter, the language may be different because I'm going to specifically focus on front-end engineering books because that's my lane. So that's what I'm going to be able to best assist people with. I often get asked, hey, what's that book behind you on the desk? So that's my JavaScript book. That's the holy grail of the JavaScript guide. And I keep it on my desk at all times because that's what I'm mainly working in all day, right? And you'd probably want to do the same thing, no matter if you're a front-end developer or a back-end developer. You always want to keep your reference books near you at all times. And if you don't have a reference book, you could always access sites like the Mozilla Development Network or other free resources on the net that'll, answer your questions if there's something you need to reference that you're unsure about. So let's get started. I'm going to show you some of the books that I keep around my house to make sure that I keep my skills sharp. I have over 100 development books and I've read them all. Okay, so here we go. First book, The Holy Bible of JavaScript. It is a O'Reilly book. If you are new to development, O'Reilly has every type of book you can think of on software engineering, development, testing. They have it all. You can probably go to O'Reilly.com and pick up a huge assortment of books that's going to help you towards your career. So again, this is my reference book. You see it's pretty thick and it basically covers all the syntax, all the JavaScript syntax that you would ever need to reference in order to do your job. So after you get finished perusing the JavaScript guide, it's a pretty thick book, and any good developer or coding camp program is going to tell you the next book you need to read to kind of put the JavaScript reference book in summation, and it pulls out the basics of really what you need to know to be a good developer. JavaScript, the good parts, basically abstracts the most important information out of the JavaScript reference guide. This is like Holy Grail number 2. Better yet, the JavaScript reference is the Old Testament. This is the New Testament. You must have this book. You're going to want to get a series of books that delve deeper into specific topics into JavaScript. That's going to overall make you a better developer in doing your job. And as you move up in your career, you're going to be expected to know these JavaScript patterns in order to be able to really say that you're a mid-level or senior level developer, or even a tech lead. So the next book I have for you is Maintainable JavaScript. We can't code just for the sake of coding. Your coding has to be clean. Your coding has to be maintainable. You should be able to code in your own style, while at the same time, it should be something that someone should be able to come behind you and follow up and be able to read your code, know what it does, and if they need to refactor, they can easily do so. They can just, for the most part, easily see what it is that your code is attempting to do. If a person can't do that, if another developer cannot tell what it is that you've coded for, you have not written maintainable JavaScript. If your JavaScript cannot scale to fit the business requirements or the data set that it is being performed on, your JavaScript is not maintainable. This is another good book to have to understand how to write your code in such a way that it can scale. The next book, Functional JavaScript. This is a good book because it shows you how to do functional programming from a JavaScript standpoint. Now, functional programming is really an advanced concept that I would say more mid-level and senior level developers get into. And this book is really good if you want to grow into an advanced skill set with your JavaScript. It's going to take you through the functional programming paradigm, and you can look that up for exactly what it is. It's going to take you through functional patterns, higher order functions to really make complex code simple and effective. The next book for JavaScript is also really important. As we go through our coding careers, you will start to notice that there are patterns to code. It doesn't matter who has developed the program, the pattern and the similarity to a lot of these coding recipes for solving problems are the same. So the next book that you need to have in your reference for JavaScript is Design Patterns. As you grow in your career, you're going to start to see that blocks of code are very similar. There are already predefined patterns for solving particular coding problems, complex coding problems. These are just some of the patterns that you're going to need to know in order to do your job. They're time tested and proven. They work under different models. So this book is going to take you through architectural patterns such as MV star, module, observer, mediator, pub sub. You need to understand what those design patterns are in any language if you're going to become a developer, a programmer, or an engineer. Design patterns, architectural patterns are a must. So the next book that you must also have in your arsenal, books dealing with data structures and algorithms. If you're a mid-level, senior, lead developer or engineer, you have to know this material. This material is actually taught in most basic computer science programs across the country. This book is Data Structures and Algorithms with JavaScript. If you're going to school for computer science, there are all sorts of books about algorithms out there on the market. And those books are rather thick and heavy and come from a more academic approach. This book right here will give you data structures and algorithms from a JavaScript approach. Usually these classes in university are taught from a C++, C, or even Java perspective. I don't think they teach these concepts from a C++ perspective any longer. I think all the universities have moved up to Java. This book is very important. This book is going to take you through advanced algorithms dealing with arrays, lists, hashes, dictionaries, binary search trees, sorting, searching, graph algorithms. This is important, especially if you're someone who's gunning for a job at, the Big 10 companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. You're going to be tested severely on this material. As a matter of fact, you're tested on this material before they will even give you a face-to-face interview. They're going to have you do a coding exercise that's going to determine if you know your basic data structures and algorithm material. And if you can't make it past that part of the interview, you won't get a face-to-face interview with any of those companies. So this is very important to study. Like, sleep with it under your bed type study. The next book I'm going to show you has to do more with how you write your code and the style. It's very, very important that your code be clean, concise, again, maintainable, and that other developers can come behind you and know exactly what it is that you've attempted to implement. Clean code. This book is excellent. I wouldn't say it's a requirement or a must-have, but if you're interested in the way your code looks and feels, that's important to you, you'll get this book and read clean code. What can you expect from this book? This book has things in it like not leaving comments in your code. Now that sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Let me tell you why. If your code is clean and concise, your variables are properly named, someone should be able to look at your block of code and know exactly what's going on. If they can't tell exactly what's going on, your code is not clean. Thus, people who leave a lot of comments on their code is probably pretty messy and they have to go through great lengths to explain what it is that they're trying to do. You shouldn't need to do that. You shouldn't need to leave comments and breadcrumbs for other developers because your code is just that clean and concise. This book is also going to take you through code formatting, testing, variable names, file structure, everything that you really need to know to have a good looking code base. Like, have you ever opened up a file and just skimmed through it and you're just like, damn, some damn good code. Who wrote this? I have. Some of my peers and my colleagues, they write some damn good code. You'd be amazed at the feeling that you get when you can open a file and you can look through it from top to bottom, know exactly what's going on. It's formatted elegantly. Like, the code is literally elegant and sexy. That's what this book gives you. This gives you sexy code. Another book that I have has to do with CSS. Most times the way people approach CSS is kind of rather lackadaisical, and it really has no rhyme or reason or structure. You kind of just giving your class names, whatever, the best descriptive that you can with no real rhyme or reason. That was really, really important for your CSS to even be elegant and efficient and clear and concise, and also match up with the structure, the element structure of the HTML that you're applying the CSS to. Enter SMAX, which is basically modular CSS. And it takes you through a whole framework and naming convention of how to name and format your CSS so that, again, it's also clean, concise, readable. And it follows the hierarchy of the markup that you're applying it to. And it's not a big read, really thin, but it's good. It's a system for class names and identifiers for CSS. So pick this up. It's called Scalable and Modular Architecture for CSS. Hence the acronym SMACS. So the next two books that I'm going to show you actually don't have to do with code at all. It actually has to do with user experience. So if you're a front-end developer, if you're interested in being a front-end developer, it's not your job just to know JavaScript. You have to know more than JavaScript. You have to know user experience patterns. You have to know good design. You have to be able to discern when you're looking at a good design, when you're looking at a design that fits a certain pattern, when a pattern solves a certain complex problem. And in order to do that, you need to know what good user experience is. Even though you may not be doing the designing yourself, you still need to basically know a user experience person's job. Enter Lean UX. Lean UX is a book about user experience that was modeled off of the Lean startup methodology. Basically, it took the UX process and flipped it on its head and pared it down and stripped out a lot of nuts and bolts in the process that you don't need when it comes to coming up with effective user experience design. Now, even though you may not be doing the design yourself, it's good to know the process that the UX designers are taking to come up with their designs and to come up with their user experience patterns to solve the complex problems that your team is working to solve. The next book, Designing Interfaces. This book is also good for understanding user experience patterns and when to use them, when to apply them, and what problems to apply them to. A lot of the problems that we solve for in software development, software engineering, some of them are basic. Some of them are complex, but some of them are repeatable. Some of them are highly repeatable and highly reusable. They happen across multiple applications, multiple domains and industries, that once you understand what the pattern is, you can apply it to any application that you're coding for. That's why someone like myself, I'm able to go from industry to industry to industry and still do the same job because the user experience patterns are the same. Recipes for the complex problems that we're solving are pretty much the same. In my opinion, data is data, and the visualization of data shouldn't be hinged upon exactly what that data is. It's more so hinged on the fact of how do you solve the problem? If the problem is repeatable and a known problem, there's going to be a user experience pattern for it already. So the next set of books that I'm going to show you have to actually do with interviewing. If you're ready to hit the ground running and apply for positions to get your first development job, one of the books that you really need to read is Programming Interviews Exposed. This book is going to take you through solutions for interviewing problems. It's also going to take you through some interviewing techniques and skills that are going to be really useful when going to apply for that job. Definitely pick this up. Now for the big daddy of all coding interview books, Cracking the Coding Interview. Again, if you're interested in applying for jobs at companies like Google and Facebook and Netflix and Amazon, you need this book. The holy grail of interview questions. Any kind of design pattern, coding problem that you could think of is in this book. If you don't have it, go get it. I'm going to be completely honest with you all. I studied this book for 2 or 3 months. Ate, slept, and breathed this book to prepare me to apply for a job at Google. I did not make it. Doesn't mean I'm a bad developer, because there's plenty of people who have development jobs, and lots of people apply for positions at Google and don't make it. Google interviews are very hard. But this book is what you also need for preparation. If you're applying for a job at somewhere like Google and you haven't read this book, matter of fact, I think this book was written by somebody from Google. Yes, and it was written by a woman too. That's also the cool thing. This book was written from an employee of Google, Apple, and Microsoft. Go get this book like tomorrow. I'm serious, tomorrow. And sleep with it for like 4 months. The last and final book that I'm going to cover goes back into the topic of data structures and algorithms. This book may look familiar to those of you who have taken computer science courses. I believe this book is like the granddaddy of all data structures and algorithms books. It was my textbook when I was in college. I actually went out and purchased it again from the bookstore at the time that I was preparing for an interview at Google. This book is very deep. If you're interested in learning about data structures and algorithms on the deepest level possible, one of the deepest levels possible, this book is the book that you go read. If you can see it. It's written from an academic perspective, so be prepared for a snoozer. This book is the book that I would say can determine whether you're just a developer or if you're an engineer. be quite honest with you. Reading books like these, I think, is what draws the line. Are you able to not only practically apply the concepts of data structures and algorithms, but are you able to apply the theory? Like, do you understand the theory behind it all? And that's what you get here. So the next books that I have for you are actually in a set. These books are called the Four Horsemen of Computer Programming. And if the last book I showed you was the granddaddy of data structures and algorithms, this set of books is like the great grandpappy of computer programming in general. From a theoretical perspective, again, it's heavy. So if you're looking to really work at a company solving highly complex problems, having this deep understanding of algorithms is really, really important. You're not going to be able to show and prove without this deep knowledge. You should be able to get through problems on Top Coder using the information in this book. If you've deeply studied out data structures and algorithms, problems on Top Coder should not be a problem for you. Have I gone that deep? No. But I'll show them to you anyway. This is a full set, The Art of Computer Programming. So the set is broken up into 4 books. The first book, volume 1, is Fundamental Algorithm. What's in this book is probably similar to the last book that I showed you. The next book goes deeper into algorithms, and it's called Semi-Numerical Algorithm. I have not read this one yet. The third volume is Sorting and Searching, and the 4th volume is Combinatorial Algorithms. So there are actually more books to this set. I just haven't purchased them, and I'm struggling right now trying to put these away because these books are heavy. Okay, where were we? So now that that's over, I've showed you just some of the books that I keep around my house for reference purposes. Definitely when I'm going on interviews and I need to prepare. Sometimes you need to prepare months out in order to really truly prepare for the job that you want. So again, if you're going through Google, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, any company that you know without a shadow of a doubt is going to give you a rigorous interview process and test you on not just your development and coding skills, but your formal engineering and computer science knowledge and skills. Being able to do things like whiteboard and clearly explain how you're coming up with the algorithm that you're proposing to solve the problem is going to be important. And these books can help you get there to prove and show that you have the chops for the job. So that's all today for the books that you should be reading to be a good developer. Hit the like button below, leave me a comment, or subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time.